In February of 2018, a YouTuber named Greg Harris uploaded a rather disturbing video titled, "Almost Got Decapitated by Wire Booby Trap" on an ATV trail on his channel Greg Harris, Florida. Greg often shares videos of his daily activities in various locations across North America. In this particular video, he uploaded GoPro footage of himself riding his ATV on a trail somewhere in the United States. The video begins with Greg speeding along an off-road section on his ATV. However, as he ventures deeper into the woods, his ride is suddenly interrupted by something quite alarming. Upon closer inspection of the footage, it's evident that a metal wire had been set up between the two trees, which caught on Greg's helmet and forced him to stop. In the description of his video, Greg later noted how incredibly lucky he was that the wire broke, as it had become entangled beneath the chin of his helmet. Fortunately, thanks to his helmet and the reduced speed he had while making the turn, combined with the wire being aligned right at his helmet, he avoided a potentially life-threatening injury from the wire. It may seem shocking that anyone would consider setting up a lethal booby trap on an ATV trail, but unfortunately encounters of this nature are more common than one might think within the dirt bike community. Sometimes these traps are set up by property owners trying to keep bikers off their land, or by individuals who become infuriated with the loud noise and resort to violence against the riders. In circumstances like this, it is difficult to determine who might have placed the trap. This is a scenario where, had the wire been placed just a bit lower, or if Greg had been riding a little faster, the accident could have had much more serious consequences. Thankfully, Greg was able to walk away with only minor injuries.
I was down in my tent, not asleep, listening to all the sounds, and then I heard somebody down by the shelter. So at first I had to convince myself it wasn't what I thought I heard, but it definitely was somebody down there.
This right here is a YouTuber named Phil, who in December of 2021 uploaded a video titled "Creepy Night in the Woods" on his channel Hike Slam. His channel primarily focuses on outdoor exploration, and he regularly shares footage of his hiking and camping experiences throughout North America. In this particular video, Phil chose to go on a solo overnight hike along the Appalachian Trail in Virginia. He starts the video by venturing deep into the woods in search of a suitable camping location for the night. The first few minutes of his hike seemed to go smoothly, and everything appeared to be quite normal. However, about 30 minutes into the hike, he stumbles upon some peculiar trash along the trail. Oddly enough, some of the containers he discovers have writing on them that resembles song lyrics and poems. Nevertheless, Phil chooses to ignore the peculiar writing and carries on with his hike. As he explores further, he encounters another set of strange notes and writings as he approaches the campsite. This time, however, Phil notices a dead duck lying next to the notes, and this is when things start to take a very disturbing turn for Phil.
The weirdness continues. What the hell? And there's a dead duck here. A very long note. And it looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently killed. Alright. Kind of creepy.
After discovering another set of disturbing writings and cryptic poems, Phil finds a dead duck lying next to them. At that moment, he notices a campsite just a few yards away from the notes and the dead duck. It's unclear whether the person who wrote the notes is also responsible for killing the duck. Nevertheless, Phil decides to keep his distance from the campsite and continues on his hike. As he makes his way up the trail, he encounters two women hiking down the trail.
Okay, well that was really weird. So as I was hiking toward the shelter, these two women were hiking in the opposite direction. They had a little dog with them. They asked if I had seen the guy who was leaving the notes. I said he has a campsite down by the river. They were shocked I was still considering camping out there, but they said that they were kind of freaked out and asked if I would go with them and walk past his campsite so they could get back to their car. So I did, and then when I got back to my truck, and I'm actually on the Appalachian Trail, just going the opposite direction. But I'm just gonna find the closest camp spot to where I'm at because the sun is going down, and set up camp and yeah, settle in for the night.
Phil mentioned that the two women asked him if he had seen a man leaving disturbing notes and dead animals. When he told them he noticed a campsite just a few yards away from the notes, the women, afraid for their lives, asked him to walk back to their car with them. Phil agreed and walked back with them before heading in the opposite direction to find a safer place to camp for the night. Once Phil arrived at the shelter, he set up camp for the night and enjoyed his dinner, far away from the unsettling notes. Later that night, Phil went into the shelter to check out the camp log and read some of the notes and stories left by other hikers. That's when Phil discovered something extremely disturbing once again.
I'm gonna check out the shelter log here. Almost every shelter on the Appalachian Trail has a shelter log. It's kind of cool tradition here. So let's see what this one says. All right, let's see what's happened recently. Holy crap. Wait a second. This writing looks almost exactly like the writing that was on that garbage a couple of miles from here.
It's important to note that the shelter where Phil is currently located is more than 2 miles away and is situated entirely on the opposite side of the road from the notes and ducks he saw earlier. The handwriting in the camp log is identical to the handwriting he found in the previous notes and trash. The situation becomes increasingly disturbing as Phil starts to read through the logbook.
In 2018, while I was incarcerated at the Okaloosa County Jail, what the heck? In solitary confinement, I figured the following out. Refer to Isaiah 28:15. Here in early 2017, Trump, Nebo, allowed Obama to have the special use of the Air Force One for a trip to Palm Springs. This is the same ramblings from the guy that was on the other side of the river. That's kind of scary. Wow, this is weird. It's just like it goes in one direction, then immediately goes in a completely different direction. And there's just so much of it. Like this line up here. Think grave robbery in an attempt to obscure the reality of little Mrs. Wolf. In the past, the Russian collusion assertion have been followed up on many occasions with the advancement of illusions that would show discord in fiction between the colluding parties. You're falling faster. Obey your master. What the heck? Okay, that's crazy.
After reading the logbook, it's evident that a convicted felon has been wandering through the woods, leaving disturbing notes all over the place. The writing raises concerns about his mental stability, which is particularly alarming considering that Phil is alone in the middle of nowhere at night and doesn't seem to have anything to defend himself with. As Phil walked back to the shelter, he noticed a bottle hanging from a string on the ceiling. Attached to it was a note in the same handwriting as before, that read, "Watch out for Yeet Mouse, the dead do walk and talk." Disturbed by everything he was witnessing, Phil was overwhelmed with fear and anxiety. He ultimately decided to return to his tent and call it a night. However, as he tried to fall asleep, he heard footsteps approaching the shelter right next to his tent.
Okay, I'm out on the trail. It's the middle of the night. I was down in my tent listening to all the sounds, and then I heard somebody down by the shelter. So at first I had to convince myself it wasn't what I thought I heard, but it definitely was somebody down there. So I packed up all my stuff and I walked past. As I walked past, I did look. It did look like a single guy hanging out in the shelter. He had a headlamp on. All I could really see was the light from the headlamp, so I could have been wrong. So I don't know. I just got out of there.
After hearing footsteps outside his tent, Phil peeked out and noticed a man with a headlamp wandering around the shelter. Unsure if this was the same individual who had been leaving notes, he quickly gathered his things and headed back to his truck. Fortunately for Phil, he was not being followed or stalked and returned home safely. As of the time this video was uploaded, Phil has not gone back to the Appalachian Trail. The identity of the person who left the creepy notes and killed the duck remains unclear, and since Phil never found out the truth behind these disturbing experiences, this mystery might remain unsolved.
I don't think I'm going to be getting much sleep tonight.
This right here is a British YouTuber named Will, who in January of 2021 uploaded a video titled "Scary and Strange Noises While Solo Stealth Camping" on his channel Will's Whereabouts. His channel is dedicated to outdoor exploration, and he frequently posts videos of his stealth camping experiences as he travels across the UK in his camper van. In this particular video, he decided to go stealth camping in the woods somewhere in the UK. He begins the video by parking his van near the forest, where he shows off the various camping gear and equipment he packed for his trip. As night falls, he prepares his dinner and reads a book before heading to bed. However, while he was trying to fall asleep, he hears strange noises coming from the woods and starts recording. This is when things started to take a very disturbing turn.
Time to lock this front door
because I don't want anyone thinking that I'm here for a good time. Windows are slightly open, carbon monoxide alarm is working, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I should wake up in the morning.
I don't think I'm going to be getting much sleep tonight. There are people about 100 meters away. And some people screaming. Wish me luck, everybody.
After being awakened by the strange noises, he struggled to understand what was happening in the woods. He later speculated that the noise might have been made by a group of campers who were having a good time, but it seemed unlikely anyone would be screaming in the woods in the middle of the night. Many comments from Will's viewers mentioned that the noise might have been people screaming as they encountered some kind of animal and were attempting to scare it away. Fortunately for Will, the noises eventually stopped, allowing him to sleep through the rest of the night. But the source of the noises remains a mystery. Since Will left the woods before discovering what had caused the strange sounds, this mystery may remain unsolved.